From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief digital strategist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have my regular co-host, Mr. Ryan Waterbury, with me with Agency Chat. And Ryan and I are going to talk all about marketing in a changing digital world. This is one episode you don't want to miss. Sit back, relax, enjoy. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. And today I have my monthly co-host, Mr. Ryan Waterbury, with me. Hey Ryan, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. It's my nephew's birthday, so
Yes.
always send him funny cards and gifts to cheer him up before he starts his day. So that is my day today.
It is nice and warm here in Toronto today. A little overcast, but it's not awful.
Yeah.
Today we were kind of batting around some ideas of chatting, and it was kind of around if something's not working, change it. And then we were having some little chat beforehand about how the digital realm is always changing. So, let's start there. What's on your brain today?
So my original premise, with something's not working, is things are changing and changing in the digital realm, where people find you, how you purchase things, and I keep seeing this change. There's nothing constant, and it's just moving faster than it ever has before. So you have to be ready to evolve and do different things to remain relevant. And we're not talking drastically different things. I talked a little bit that we're switching to lead gen, and we're not switching to it. We're just bringing it back, but we're doing it differently this time, because you can't just set up a set of ads, find the right one, and leave an evergreen funnel on for a couple of years and let the leads roll in. It doesn't work like that anymore. With the advent of AI, we're finding things in different areas, Google in particular, and OpenAI has helped Bing, so Bing's become a player. So you have to be in more places than you needed to be even 6 months ago. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is, and even so much so in terms of ads. So let's go down the ad route. We had the traditional PPC, which is Google and Facebook and Reddit and LinkedIn and all those wonderful ads that we pay for. And then you go kind of off the board a little bit, and you get into some niche stuff like podcast ads and things like that, right? And that's getting interesting too, because I've been grumbling a lot on Slack and on social about overseas marketers who think they're selling tactics that are so 15 years ago. And they're sending me these emails every day. I wake up to 5 that says, your website's broken, you're this, you're that. And I just shake my head and say, no, my website's not broken. And I'll tell you why. I am getting every week 3 to 5 to 6 major leads when people want to be on my podcast who don't even know me. So, and they're coming to me. So my website is not broken. What has changed is the evolution of how we get people to your website. And what I think as marketers, we need to start looking at is other avenues. Do we need to get our clients' ads in front of a podcast audience, for example? And the reason I say that is I can't tell you, and I'm a bad marketer this way, I can't tell you the last 10 digital ads I looked at, but I can tell you the last 3 or 4 podcast ads I've heard because of where people are more invested in. What do you think about things like evolution, about things like that too?
Our friend Todd loves Spark Toro and Rand
Yep.
Fishkin, and he has really come around to talk
Yep.
about how to market in the zero click era. And
Mhm.
you're touching on it exactly where you need to find out where
Yep.
your audience is.
Yep.
And first of all, we lost tracking ability, with the default, Google. So you either had to spend money and run your own tag manager server, which is what we're doing now, to collect all the data and send it appropriately to measure conversions, or you were flying blind and you were missing out on a lot and spending a lot more money than you needed to on traditional ads. So you need to start measuring things in different areas, and finding ways to do that is not always fun. But we're seeing a lot of the marketing spam like you're getting because of automation tools and AI. It's so easy to spin up a workflow on N8N, Zapier,
Mhm.
Pabbly, Flowmatic, scrape your
Tons
website, find the contact info, and automatically send out an email that says, "Oh, whether you things are broken or not, somebody's going to respond. If you send out enough, it's just the law of numbers that somebody will
and
bite.
it's
And it's
so
unfortunate.
it's
It
also
gives us,
fear-based marketing, like to some degree, right? Oh, your website's broken. Oh, you need to act now. And I
yeah.
and I know marketing is all about pulling purse strings, but for me, fear-based marketing doesn't work. Oh, I just say, I don't even answer. I don't. And then I'll get an email the next day saying, when are we moving forward on your project? What project? You mean the one I didn't commit to? Okay. I,
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, those marketers, we're starting to see the shady marketer area arise there. I mean, we used to see the sleazy marketing bros who just had the Facebook ads with them sitting in a Lambo and, a rented Lambo and making things look great. That era is gone. And, you can't market like that.
yep.
You can't just set up a tool, an ad set, and let the algorithm find out who your people are. People are fragmented. They've left
Yep.
Facebook, X. They're on other platforms. So you have to identify who your audience is and then start building content there. And I'm not saying paid ads, but just content. And it
No,
could
I
be
I agree.
organic social shares. You could slip an ad or sponsorship into, a favorite podcast of a group of users that listeners that are also users of your product or service. You have to get a little more creative these days. And they're, don't get me wrong, they're running ads absolutely is still, in my opinion, one of the number one tactics. But
I agree.
that can't be the only part of your strategy. And
Yep.
if if that's not working, you need to move on and look at something else and find out what is working.
Yep. And I think, by the way, I'm going to come circle back to an old strategy that still works well today, and that's called email marketing or newsletters or that. Folks, anybody who thinks email marketing is dead is so out to lunch these days. You need to build that email list. You need to market to that list, and you need to know it down because people still look at their inbox, and it's very simple. So we need to be very careful that you actually start email marketing again, and spend some time there. I'd be doubling down on that. The other thing you mentioned was content. And with content, I want to mention consistency. So, as a marketer, it used to be you needed about 7 to 10 touches on a product for them to know who you were. I think that's almost doubled or tripled today. I
Mhm.
really do. I really believe that. So, I think you got to be consistent. So, if you're going to put out a blog post, try and put it out, one a week every week. Try and get some consistency built in. You're going to
Mhm.
do an email list, try and get it out every week. Yeah, you can vary it a day here or there. That's not what I'm talking about. It's get into those habits. And the worst things I think business owners need to do, and I tell my clients this every day, is start scheduling time in your schedule to market your own
Mhm.
business instead of doing your core stuff like selling and doing that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And taking that time, and you touched on content, and brand is more important these days than ever before. And why I say that, we look at I've got a project coming up for a web application and a web app. And it's for a very specific purpose. But in doing some research and discovery on the web app, I saw some really interesting stats that brand loyalty is up. If you
Mhm.
serve your customers well, they're more
Yep.
likely to come back. And native
Mhm.
app purchases, if you have a native app versus web that works well,
Mhm.
we're seeing 3 times the conversion rate on those apps. So branding is really important. And
It's
finding your
one.
clients,
Can I can I touch
yeah.
on the native app purchases for a sec? It's one of the reasons there's all this fighting going on in the Google Play Store and the Apple Play Store with having companies allowed to take purchases in third party areas. If you look at Apple
Oh
Play and
God.
the Apple Store and the Google Play Store right now, if you go into an app and you do a purchase, have you ever noticed recently that they fire up a web browser now and take you out of that if you don't choose to
Mhm.
do the purchase in Apple or Google? And that's to do with all these convoluted rules and all the option rules and all the EU. And honestly, the minute somebody leaves the app, the purchase value goes down. And it's such a pain in the wazoo. Like I buy Audible books. Do you know to buy an Audible book on Amazon? I cannot log in the Amazon app through my phone. I have to physically log into a web browser and buy the book that way. Then it gets transferred to my Audible account. And that experience is just awful. That's why the numbers come down. But there's nothing
Mhm.
they can do about it because Google and Apple, especially in the mobile world, hold all the keys to the kingdom.
And that's changed. You're seeing antitrust things with Google,
Yep.
although Google has some grounds and it will be struck down because AI has changed that. OpenAI with Microsoft
Mhm.
and Bing, they're growing. We're still seeing the majority on Google, but EA
Yep.
Sports with Apple, they won their suit too that said you can't take 30% of our purchase value to have our, purchases through the store. That's a big number, 30%. That's a tax and it's
That's huge.
prohibitive. But that's a marketplace, and that's one place that you can
What
get
does
your app in front of someone. Now let's step out of the box a little bit.
hang on a sec,
And
but I want to go there. But that 30% is no worse than what Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats are charging either, because it's the same problem. Have you ever noticed if you
mhm.
go to Uber Eats or Skip the Dishes, you pay 30% more for the what you're ordering than if you went in and got it yourself because they got to make the 30% back. So it's a
Well,
marketplace charge.
yeah, and a lot of those fees and upcharges came during the pandemic, especially in our area, specifically to help
Mm.
local businesses do their deliveries.
Yep.
And they'll
Yep.
never go
Yep.
away because that profit margin is there now, and it's set. There's no
Yep.
temporary thing. Now, I'm gonna throw you another thing. You brought up Amazon, and
I
their whole
did.
premise when they launched Pluto TV after purchasing MGM,
Yep.
in-stream purchases.
Oh yeah. Big
And
right now. Yep.
yep, so they allow you to purchase, right? You're logged into Amazon Prime. You can make purchases based on the ads that they show you in line. And
Mhm.
that's really good. Well, let's take that a step further. TV ads are now affordable because where do most people get their visual video content?
Streaming. Streaming.
Streaming. So you look at some of these smaller streaming services, Hulu, Paramount. I've been looking into that, and their ad rates, uh, you can gather data just like you could with
Yep.
YouTube. For someone that's
Yep.
watched most of the ad, well, that's a likely purchaser. You can start to glean data there, and it's not as expensive as it used to be when you're airing on major network TV. They don't command the pricing. It's like comparing Facebook and Google back in the day where it was pennies on the dollar per click. So we look
Oh
at
yeah.
the video ad costs on streaming versus network TV. It's the same gap right now. It'll close, it will, but you got to think about things like that. And billboards now with
Yep.
LED digital billboards, to buy a spot on a rotating billboard, it doesn't cost tens of thousands of dollars that you have to sink in to have that billboard for 6 months. You can get that spot for a couple $100.
Yeah.
And, there are ways to measure that. It's more difficult, but those other avenues for advertising and marketing now are tangible for small local businesses.
Yeah, no question. You're absolutely right. And then you got to start looking at some interesting avenues like should you be advertising on Yelp? There's one I'll throw out there. I've talked to them lately.
Hmm.
Should you be advertising on Reddit? Reddit has become very popular amongst the younger crowd. And then there's this whole uncertainty because of the U.S. and the Canadian and the world political situation. Is what do we as
Hmm.
creators put into TikTok? I don't even want to. That's a separate issue altogether. I mean,
Yep. And TikTok is its own animal, and I don't think it's going away. They
no,
always talk about the
I don't
sale to a
either.
U.S. company. It's not going away, and too many people rely on it and are affected by it. So I think it'll stay around. But that's a whole nother animal, and that audience is completely different than audiences on Facebook. It's similar to
Yeah,
Instagram, but it's still different. And you have to
yeah,
market and produce content for the platform. That's why content's
yeah,
really big and why I'm talking about these other areas and why we've had to raise our pricing because we have to do platform specific content now where
hmm
what we
hmm
used to have Google Ad Designer was beautiful where you could
yeah,
flexibly change your ads to fit in any banner location. You also had Facebook settings within there to advertise in those platforms from one medium. Well, you can't throw out the same message because you have different generations on different platforms consuming
yep,
content differently.
yep, yep,
And for a marketer, once you dial in on where your audience is, you can go all in on that platform. But it takes a lot more research up front from a human and I'm going to say some AI tools to be astute enough to find out where you should be. But don't limit
mhm,
yourself to one platform and yeah, invest in content, your branded content, so that when you find that platform, you're ready to go and you have your brand front and center with content to help pitch your product.
yeah. I agree. And it's funny, and and we're not even talking about the tough spaces. So those are the cannabis space for advertising. That's that you're in that space a bit. There's all kinds of
Hmm.
rules. The political space, which you've been in past, and I'm certainly in, that's a bit
Hmm.
of a mess. The adult legal space. So
Hmm.
by that I define as, like adult boutique stores and things like that. That's a whole new can of worms too. Certainly if you're in the gun space in the US with digital advertising, even though guns are legal in the US, there's all kinds of issues advertising there.
Hmm.
And we're not
I've been in
even
that
getting
space.
into all those exceptions. Pardon?
I've been in the firearm space. It's gotten tight, it's gotten loose. And we always relied on SEO for that and
Yeah.
good blog articles and content and forums. And I'm just gonna hit on that where we're talking about these spaces that are highly regulated and firearms, cannabis. What we're finding with just SEO in general and to get AI mentions and be everywhere on the page,
Mhm.
you want to use properties that Google and Bing like Quora,
Yes.
Medium, Reddit.
Yep.
Reddit is a big one. And that's the new tactic where we used to go to forums. I had launched a product with one of my entrepreneur clients, and we did a lot of research and found out who the ideal buyer was. And it was through analytics and ads. But what really prompted that is users from a particular forum that every one of them could have benefited from the product. And it was a trailer hitch lock. And we found that we started getting traffic from hunting forums and mostly fishing forums because guess what everybody has that is serious about fishing? They've got a boat.
Trailers. Yeah.
Yep. And so you have to get really, I don't say you have to get really creative, but you have to start thinking about all the data and looking at where your clients are because they're not sitting on Facebook all the time anymore. They're not on, or They might just be on Instagram or X or Blue Sky or TikTok
Yeah.
or Forum. They're all over the web now, and you need to evolve. But my one tidbit where I'm going to give you the secret sauce for a Reddit and Medium, if you start being more active there with your brand, that'll help you.
Yeah. What I would say is the customer profile, customer avatar, as we call it in the biz, is more important today than ever before, because
Mhm.
one of the things you figure out is with your customer profile where you go. And people tend to go where their tribes and their friends go. I hate to tell you, like it's so if a
Mhm.
group of people go to Reddit, I can guarantee all their friends are on Reddit. If a group of people go to X, they're probably on X. We know from experience a lot of the geeky people are on Mastodon. That's just where they go. They go to
Yeah.
federated systems. So
Mhm.
it all depends on what you're after. Do you have any other tips, Ryan?
The biggest takeaway I want agency owners, whether you're a marketing agency or a web agency, is to take what you're doing with a grain of salt. And if you've been doing it for a long time, maybe it's time to shake things up, especially if you've
Yep.
seen a slowdown and look
Yep.
at other methods on how to reach out to people. That could even be if you're a local business, joining your chamber of commerce, signing up
Yep.
for a BNI network,
Go to a
doing
networking event. Go
get
to I'm
outside of your
doing
comfort zone and do some different things because what worked yesterday, some of it works today, but not all of it.
yeah, yeah. Go meet some people. Friday I'm doing a networking event all day, just to go out and catch up. And I still think there's value in stuff like that. Think about that. Look at your local libraries. If you're in a big city, a lot of them have small business events. If you're a marketer, go to those. Not so much for the information, but more to meet the people, right? Because I question, and I've told you this, I'm not a big fan unless I'm going to learn or going to catch up with friends or colleagues of going to an event with other web designers, other marketers. Because if that's a business networking event, that's good
Mhm.
for internal stuff, but it's not good for generating revenue. So
Right.
start to think outside the box. Yeah, I agree. All righty, Ryan, as always, thank you. If somebody wants to find you, go on over to One Dog Solutions, say hello to the two office managers who I have not heard today, which is in shock as Ryan
They're very
smiles
quiet.
that they are. I think we need to record earlier more often, but that's another story. You have a good day, my friend. Talk to you soon.
You as
Bye.
well.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. Very special thank you to Ryan Waterbury for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.